these mysterious magi were. For example, the Jewish historian Philo, who wrote commentaries on the Old Testament during the time of Christ, gives us an early description of these wise men. To Philo, the Magi were researchers into the phenomena of nature. In order to gain knowledge, they studied both the heavens and the earth. In order to learn something secret things that were to come into being, that were to come into pass, they were seekers. The Magi were seekers into divine revelation. The Magi tried for, centuries to interpret the patterns or celestial movements of the night skies in order to support the political and religious power of their rulers. Now, the 5th century BC historian Herodotus describes the Magi as highly respected priests/astrologers of the Persian, the Persian religion, the religion of the Persian Empire, Zoroastrianism. An empire. The Persians were an empire that ruled a vast area of territory and believed in one god. Their god was Ahura Mazda. They also had their own similar Messiah-like King of Kings spiritual being who would one day descend from the heavens with a celestial omen or omina heralding his arrival. Now, celestial omens or omina were events like lunar or solar eclipses, meteors, comets, planetary conjunctions, and were considered an indication of the will of the gods, and had been collected and codified by the ancient Babylonians since at least 1800 BC, perhaps far earlier than that. They developed an ancient system known as the Anu, Enlil, a system in which the gods communicated their messages via symbolic language, a language that was interpreted by the phenomena of nature and the celestial signs, comets, meteors, eclipses, etc., that are revealed by the gods to humanity. These ancient Babylonian astrologers/astronomers, known as the Baru, wrote down their interpretations on cuneiform clay tablets, many of which survive to this very day. And they invent the concept of the zodiac in the process. Now, the Persians, circa 500 BC, with the arrival of Zoroastrianism, make new attempts to discern the meanings of celestial signs and develop new ideas, new theories, creating their own system. A system that, via their vast and long-lived empire, spreads into Egypt, Greece, India, and throughout the known world. These Persian magi would have been welcomed into the courts of ancient kings, since they were highly respected men of learning. They were seers, prophets, sages, and storytellers, a source of wonder and entertainment in a kingly court. Now, according to the ancient Persepolis tablets, before the arrival of Zoroastrianism, the Magi were involved in human sacrifice, burying their human victims at crossroads, or sacrificing them to, water crossings, rivers, mountains, as well as to placate violent thunderstorms. And sometimes the Magi exposed the dead to the lacerations of birds and dogs. But once the new dualistic religion, Zoroastrianism, good versus evil, engulfs the Persian Empire, the Magi don't get involved in human sacrifice anymore. They sacrifice white horses to the sun on a monthly basis and become involved in the fire cult of Zoroaster. They become linked with spiritual purity, in which the sacred fires and ritual waters must not be defiled. They are something of an enigma, the Magi, and are often, depicted in Persian art, officiating on tomb fronts. They are depicted in art as priests of the Persian doctrine of cosmic dualism and essential to the cult of the sacred fire. The Magi tended the unquenchable fires with their caps peaked forward and their mouths muffled, holding bundles of tamarisk and other stems in their hands. They always wore white robes and lived a life of privation, chanting prayers, guarding royal tombs, pouring libations, and sacrificing with their own hands a variety of undomesticated animals. Now, the king kept the Magi in attendance so they could lead out processions and marches. And these astronomer priests held a high place among the nobles. Some were put in positions of trust, but they did not seem to be politically active, for the Magi never seemed to have inflamed the passions of the people like the Hebrew prophets or Islamic mullahs had done or would do. And they are pictured in Persian royal relief sculptures. In the background, the Magi are pictured in the background in the service of court circles and their king. The Magi are under royal employ as practitioners of the magical arts of divination. The Gospel of Matthew introduces the mysterious Magi and makes them a central part to the Christmas story. These ancient astrologers who study the skies, the movements and cycles of the constellations, and are linked to both ritual magic and astrology. Now, in Matthew's Gospel, they have an overwhelming fascination with the star that has led them to Bethlehem to witness the birth of a new king and a new divine power. Symbolically, a star is a type of light shining in the darkness and is also a symbol of the spirit, a force of the spirit that struggles against the dark. Identification with the star for the Magi would come only to the chosen few, since the stars had an almost omnipotent influence on the lives and destinies of human beings. So the Magi, who believed that the forces of light and the forces of darkness are involved in a constant, if not eternal, struggle, set out as fast as they can for Judea, the Holy Land, the Judean province of the Roman Empire. They follow a celestial sign so intense, a divine message so compelling, that they journey straight into the turbulent and unhappy kingdom of Herod the Great. They journey right smack into the middle of the last period in the angry and cruel ruler's life, a very complicated time in